This is figure 649 in our textbook, and it shows three different maps of Israel and Palestine. So let's take a look at it. The context for this is after World War II. Particularly Britain and France are tired of the mandates, so between them, the United Nations, the United States, the United Nations agreed to separate the area into two components. It was part of the emotional connection with the concentration camps that evoked. So the deal was, in the United Nations thinking, we'll take this territory and we will divide it into two parts. And as you can see here, this is the way they divided it. So in the brown is Israel, and then the Gaza and the East or West Bank is in green. And that deal was not accepted by the Palestinians. I think the Palestinian orientation was that they had been nomads grazing these lands for 1,000 years, and for whatever reason they rejected the deal. So the day after Israel declared itself a state, they end up in a war with the region. And the consequence is that Israel gains a little bit of land in the north. Here, look, this is Lebanon. Now that's becomes Israel. And the Gaza Strip right here that had a border with this is the Negev desert. This is the Sinai Peninsula. You can see that after this war, the Gaza Strip is much smaller than what it was. Then we come to the 1967 war, and that was just a radical change in events. And we have to remember, if we're looking at it from the Arab perspective, Israel won this war in a dramatic fashion because it had military weapons from the United States. And so if you are an Arab or a Palestinian, you associate the United States with Israel. And in the process of that 6-day war, Israel captures the Sinai Peninsula. They eventually give it back to Egypt, but that's another story. They capture the Golan Heights from Syria. They're still in possession and control of that territory, and it's a very sore thumb between Syria and Israel. And they also capture East Jerusalem and the West Bank. And when we're talking about the West Bank, we're talking about west of the Jordan River. So here's the Jordan River, and the West Bank is the west of the Jordan River. So they capture that from Jordan. I'm going to pause this. We'll go to another slide. The maps we saw previously dealt with from 1967 to now we're in the present. So here's the separation barrier that Israel has built. From Israel's perspective, it's to deal with the Intifada. The Intifada was a situation where suicide bombers would come into Israel and blow up buses, and they would blow up discos and blow up bars. And so the Israelis built this barrier to deal with that event. From the Palestinian situation, this represents a great deal of frustration. It used to be, if you were a Palestinian, you could go to your orchard, you could use a pathway that was centuries old, and now because you have to go to checkpoints, what used to be a 5 or 10 minute walk now becomes a 2-hour trek. So from the Palestinian viewpoint, it's very frustrating. There are about 500,000 Jews living in the West Bank, and as you can see, this barrier encroaches on the land that is now being negotiated in the two-state solutions between the Palestinian Authority and the State of Israel. Here is a map of Old Jerusalem. Israel claims Jerusalem as its capital. The United States represents Tel Aviv as Israel's capital, although I think that is somewhat in flux. On the other hand, the Palestinians also consider Jerusalem to be their capital. In any event, this is the map of the old capital, and what you should focus on, your attention is this Dome of the Rock. It's important for two reasons. For the Muslims, they think Muhammad ascended into heaven here. For both Muslims and Jews, they think Abraham this is the place where Abraham was going to sacrifice his son. If it was the Jews, the son was Isaac. If you were a Muslim, the son was Ishmael. Remember that Jews and Christians and Muslims, they're all people of the book. They are all related to Abraham the patriarch. That's where the lineage is. And so here is the Dome of the Rock, this holy place for the Muslims as well as for the Jews. And then here's the Al-Aqsa Mosque, a holy place for the Muslims. And it's right on top of the Western Wall. This is part of King Solomon's second temple right here. So it's a holy place for the Jews on the Western Wall. And here's the mosque right on top of it. So it's a tremendous irony in a way. So here's a photograph of what you just saw on the map. So here's the Dome of the Rock right here. Here's the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Here is the Wailing Wall, the Western Wall for the Jews. And they're on top of each other, as you can see. So no line on a map could divide them. So I think it's a kind of a cruel irony. In a way, geography is 100% important because they're so close to each other, these these religions. And in another way, geography is 0% influential because you can't possibly draw a boundary line. So it's a very unique situation. There are about 14 or 15 million Jews in the world. About 8 million of them live in Israel. In terms of the Palestinians, population including the West Bank and the Gaza Strip and East Jerusalem, it's around 4 million. There are about 500,000 Jews living in the West Bank in the settlements. As you see with this file, in terms of the issues, is that there's 4 main issues. What are the correct borders? Who has the right of return? What will happen to the settlements? And who will control Jerusalem? So those are the 4 primary issues that will have to be ironed out between the two parties. But I think both sides more or less understand that will be the final deal. I think they understand. But we will see. Presently, this was in the fall of 2013. They have begun renegotiations. Hope this gives you an overview of the geography of this terrain and how that influences place and so forth.